and welcome to episode 22 of Book Writing Tips, quick tips for new and seasoned authors, and I am your host, Alba Arango. In today's episode, we are going to talk about judging a book by its cover. Actually, I'm just going to talk about the importance of book covers in general. And I said a couple weeks ago that I would be focusing just on book covers, and that's exactly what I plan to do today. So sit back, relax, and get ready to judge a book by its cover. All right, so let's talk book covers. I think everyone out there probably can relate to this. You walk into a bookstore and you're kind of walking through the genre you love, and there's this book and you see the cover and it just stands out, and you need to pick it up and read the back to see what it's about. That is what you want everyone who reads your book to do. You want them to see that cover and want to read the book based just on your cover. What you don't want is people to see the cover and then walk past it, walk away, because it doesn't catch their attention. So the importance of book covers is just something I cannot stress enough. So today's episode will be in two parts. The first part is going to be talking about professional book covers, which is something I do highly recommend, but they can also run a high price. So in part two, I want to talk about inexpensive alternatives that can still be eye-catching and catch the attention of the reader. So here we go. Let's start with part one, professional book covers. Now, I want to tell you my story because I think I've already mentioned it before, but in case you haven't heard that episode, let me just remind you of my personal story. And that is, I did my own book covers. I think the first 6 or 7 or 8, something like that. I did my own covers and they were fine. I mean, they weren't ugly. I thought they were kind of cute, but I would go to book festivals and, I would set up my books and I would get some interest. People would walk by, parents would walk by and they'd kind of look and they'd be nice and I'd make some sales and it was great. And after a while, I started to realize that the people with professional covers, they are just the books that people were drawn to. So I decided that I was going to do it. I was going to put the investment into getting professional covers. So we're going to talk about how I did it in a minute, but I just wanted to remind you, in case you haven't heard the story before, once I got my professional covers, it was night and day the number of book sales I made on my books. It really was. Professional book covers are just that. They look professional. They are unique to your book. No one else has those characters on their book. No one else has that design. No one. So it is unique to your book, and if it is a standout, stellar cover, it's going to make the sales. Now, obviously, if you're doing the traditional publishing route, you don't get a say. Your traditional publisher, they know the market. They know what kind of a cover is going to make the sales, and that's the kind of cover they're going to put on your book. This is more for the self-publishers out there that are doing it on their own and have to pay out of pocket for that professional book cover because it can be pricey. So let's talk about, how do you find a professional book cover designer? There are a few different ways. Let me talk about 3 of them. One, you could go to a bookstore, look in your genre, and look at the copyright information page, because it always is going to tell you who designed the cover. Now, some of them are designed by, especially if they're traditional publishers, they might have in-house illustrators that do the book cover, and there's no way you have access to them. But they may not be. If they're from a smaller house, they might have a book cover designer that does it for different houses and might do it on the side as well. So you can always do a search for their name. If you really like their design, do a search for their name and see if they have a website and see if they offer that service to authors like you. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, and this is how I did one of my 2 book cover designers that I had, I actually found, I was doing a book festival, and I really liked the cover of the woman next to me. And she said she had gone online and she had found this woman online who did books. And so I went and looked it up and I really liked her. And I actually did end up contacting her, and she actually did do the design for one series of my books. And so I actually found someone at a book festival. I liked their covers. I asked them who did it. And that's how I found one of my book cover designers. So that's something you could do. Go to book festivals. We have one here in Vegas coming up next month, the Las Vegas Book Festival. There's going to be lots of authors there, and if you wanted to, you could go to the ones that you really like their cover and ask who designed their cover. Now, the third way, and this is the way I found my other book cover designer, is I literally just did a Google search for book cover designers. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So you may want to be a little more specific, like specific genre maybe, like if you want sci-fi or romance or children's, you can do that. And that's what I did. And I probably visited, I'm going to say maybe 25 to 30 different websites, kind of narrowing it down to the ones I liked the most until I found one I really, really liked. And then I looked up everything about her designs. I looked up reviews if I could find them. I looked up everything, and I fell in love with her designs on her website. So I just, contacted her, and then we did some initial back and forth, and then she's the one I contracted, and she is still the one I use for my covers. In fact, my new book coming out October 1st, she's the same book cover designer. I love the character she put on my book. I'll definitely put a link to my book that's coming out October 1st, and you can look her up. Her name is Janine Henning. I'll even put her website in the description below so you can check it out too. Now, wherever you do, whichever method you use, when you are finding a potential professional book cover designer for your book, there are a couple things I would advise you to kind of look at. And one of them is, of course, reviews, if you can find some, but also ask them about revisions. Some book cover designers will charge you for revision. Like if they design the cover for you and you don't like this or this or this, a lot of times they'll be like, well, you get up to three revisions, and that's how many you get. After that, you have to pay for them. Because again, they're a professional. This is their time. So if you're constantly being like, well, I really just don't like her hair, or I don't like this, and you have these kind of little things that you're like nitpicking at, they'll do it, they'll change it. But after a while, they're going to be like, okay, now you're going to have to start charging extra for this extra time that I'm taking to design your book. So find out about revisions or how many you get to see if that's going to be workable for you. And the other thing I would advise you to look at is make sure that you get ownership of the art once you pay for it. Because what you never want to happen is that the book cover designer then still has like the ownership rights of that design, that cover art, and that you can then not use that cover art, say for promotional purposes. You can't use that cover art for anything because they retained ownership of it. So just make sure that once the deal is complete and you've paid them for it and everything, your deal is done, that you have ownership of that artwork. All right. Now, all of that could run you a bit of money. So my cover art, usually I think each of them ran about $400, more or less, a little less, a little more. Oh, another thing, also make sure if you're looking for a professional cover designer that they do the entire cover, like the front, the back, and the spine, the whole thing. I know there are some that will charge more to do the back cover, so just make sure you are aware of that up front. And there are some that do not. But I think I paid about $400 for each of my designs, more or less. And some run you $1,000. Some might run you $700. It probably depends on the genre. It probably depends on who you contracted, but that's what you're looking at, probably anywhere from $300 to $400, upwards of $1,000 or $1,500 if they are like a super spectacular and they actually do work for traditional houses. So just keep in mind that's quite the expense. If you're only going to be writing one book, okay, that might be an expense you are willing to do. If you're writing multiple books, just you have to put that into your budget. That's going to be part of getting your book published. All right, before I get into more inexpensive alternatives, it's time for the crazy law / writing prompt. Now, if you're new to the show, every week I give you a crazy law, and this is something that was actually a real law in history, and the challenge is for you to write a story based on that law. And this is a good way to kind of flex your writing muscles and give you a little distraction from your work in progress, and also keep you on your toes to writing, some kind of crazy story about something fun. So here we go. Today's writing prompt is this. In St. Louis, Missouri, yes, I said Missouri. Be proud of me if you're from Missouri. It is illegal to sit on a curb and drink beer out of a bucket. There you go. Have fun with that story. All right, let's get on to part 2. Inexpensive alternatives for book covers. I'm going to give you 3 or 4 different options. The first one is the one I would discourage you from, and that is do it yourself. And unless you are a graphic designer, a graphic artist, or an artist, and you have that and you really want it to be important that the whole book came from you. And if that is important for you, then absolutely do it yourself. I mean, if that's super important for you to take ownership of, I did everything in this book myself, even the cover, then absolutely do it yourself. You can use Canva. They have a free option if that's what you want. They have a paid option, which gives you even more option of templates. You can use Photoshop if you are familiar with how to use it. Absolutely do it yourself if that is something that is important to you. Now, for me, at first, my very first book, that was important. I wanted to make it all. It was me. And I tell you, it just didn't work. It didn't work because getting sales was something I wanted to do. I went to book festivals and made so few sales. And it's such a difference having a professional cover. But again, it's also more expensive. So let's look at some other options that are much less expensive, but can also give you a pretty cool looking book. Now, I have had several author friends that have used Fiverr. I'll put a link to it in the description as well. The thing about Fiverr is you have to be careful. Please listen to my tale of caution right here. Okay? Don't just go on there, Google, book cover designers and just say, hey, I need a book cover. Here's my description. Could you give me a book cover? And they're like, yeah, sure, I do. And they give you this super cool cover, but they don't own the copyrights. You don't own the copyrights for those images. You can be sued for that. Not them, you're the publisher. Your name is on the book. They are not going to be sued if they used images that are copyrighted. You are going to be sued or could be sued if you use copyrighted images on your book cover. So make sure that you own the copyright or the right to use those pictures. So ways to do that are simple. Take your own pictures, go out there at sunset, take some pretty cool pictures, go to the forest, take some cool pictures, take pictures of the ocean, take pictures of your dog, take pictures of whatever you want. You have friends who are models, take pictures of them, but take the pictures yourself. That is one way to do it. But of course, if you're not a photographer or you don't have access to the type of pictures you need, then my suggestion would go to a place like Shutterstock. Shutterstock, you actually pay for the right to use their images. So you have the right to use their copyrights, but you pay for it. And it's not a ton of money. So you're looking at, I don't remember the cost anymore. It's been a while since I've used Shutterstock, but I know you can buy multiple images for less money, and that is the right to use those images. So what you could do then and use Fiverr is you can find a graphic designer on Fiverr that maybe charges $20, and then you can get the images from Shutterstock and pay Shutterstock the right to use those images on a book cover, and then send those images to the cover designer, and then they can use those images, and then your bases are covered. So that would be my suggestion if you're going to be using Fiverr, to make sure you own the copyright to those images that they are using to make your book cover. Now that is definitely a much more inexpensive way to do it. Though it may not be as unique as you think, these cover designers on Fiverr might use similar or templates to use them. So they might be similar. They might be not be as unique as you think. The same thing with the Shutterstock images. Other people might be using those same images. So it's not going to be as unique as getting a professional book cover designer that is specific to just your book, but it is definitely going to possibly be, I shouldn't say definitely, it's possibly going to be much, much better than anything you design or anything I definitely could design myself. So that is definitely a good option. The other option is if you are really in a hurry for it, especially, but also if you do romance, I've seen a lot of romance authors do this, is to buy a pre-made cover. Now, there are places that are going to sell you pre-made covers. You're good with the copyrights. They have the copyrights to them. Then you get the copyrights to them. So you're good on it. But they're already made. They're pre-made. What they do is they have a cover that's already made. You pick it from the one that you want. There's like a lineup, and you pick the one from the lineup that you want. And they just kind of put your information in there, the title, your name. They might be willing to change up a couple little things on there to make it a little more unique to you. But this is a cover that will probably be used by other people as well, but this one is unique to you. Now, romance authors use this a lot because there are a lot of romance authors and people who are buying romance, especially if you're just doing Kindle. They aren't really that interested as much in the book. They like the book covers, but they are okay with there being similar covers. But now you're looking at possibly anywhere from $50 to $100 for a book cover, a little bit more than, say, using Fiverr, but they are pretty cool. I mean, they're usually professional covers that are just used multiple times and, tweaked here and there to be unique to you. So that is definitely a great idea for them. And all you really need to do to find that is do an online search for pre-made book covers and boom, they're going to pop up. Now, I would definitely I would definitely look for genre specific. So if you do romance or if you do sci-fi or mystery, try to find a book cover designer that kind of specializes in that, because then you're going to find some really cool ones. And you could probably find that in Facebook groups. Like if you don't belong to any Facebook writing groups, and maybe join some Facebook writing groups, or just do a search on Facebook for book cover designers and you'll probably have a bunch of them pop up. Now, there is one other option. It is the bottom of my list, and I really don't recommend it, but I did want to give that option to you, and that is that Ingram. If you're going to publish through Ingram first, which is definitely a suggestion I've already given you on my whole self-publishing, podcast that I did, is publish through Ingram first and then to Amazon, because Ingram is where Barnes & Noble buys their books. So if that's important to you, publish through them. Now, they offer a free book cover designer. So you can design your book cover for free through Ingram. Now, the problem with that is if you are then going to upload to Amazon, because Amazon and Ingram have different paper, they have different specifications, your template from there won't necessarily mesh with Amazon, and then you're going to run into problems. So, and of course, maybe possibly, I would not doubt, Ingram does this on purpose because you're using their site for free, so why should you be able to upload it to Amazon? So if that doesn't bother you, like you're only going to go through Ingram, then have their extended distribution do it through Amazon, then yeah, go ahead and use their free tool. They have a tool you can use. They have help that can help you, but just be aware, all right? It's not going to be an easy just publishing up or uploading it to Ingram, from Ingram to Amazon. So just be careful with that. So there you go. There are many options for you if you are self-publishing as far as book covers go. I would always advise a professional cover first, just because it is unique to just you and nobody else has it, and that would make your book stand out. But if that is too expensive, then definitely look at some of these other options. If you're doing it yourself because that's something important to you, lots of tools for you. Canva is my personal choice for all kinds of things, and they have a free version. Photoshop is also a great choice if you know how to use it. For me, it's a big learning curve on Photoshop, but if you're already experienced with it, that's a great option. Remember Fiverr, just remember to get those copyrights. You need to have the access to copyrights or your own images to send to the Fiverr graphic artist, or you can simply buy a pre-made cover. So there you go. I'm done talking about book covers. And yes, people do judge books by their covers. Just kind of remember that, just like I do, just like you do, just like everyone does. So stay tuned. Every week I do a new podcast episode. And again, if you have suggestions, please send them on over to me so that I know what my listeners are interested in hearing. For now, take care of yourselves, and I will see you all next week.